$40 million to make this movie, and zero of those dollars went to the CGI budget. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about Disney's new Peter Pan and Wendy movie that just came out on Disney Plus. It's available to stream right now. At the beginning of this video, I'm just going to be talking about the basics, the plot, and I'll give you a little bit of a review, and then we'll get into the spoilers a little bit later. So here we go. Okay, so the basic plot of this movie is the same as almost every single Peter Pan movie ever. There's Wendy, her brother John and Michael. They're playing in their bedroom. They have a dog named Nana. The dad is a little strict. They fall asleep, and then they meet Peter Pan, and they fly off to Neverland, where they have adventures with Captain Hook, the Lost Boys, Tinkerbell. That's about it. It's the same plot as always. I'm just gonna start off by saying this movie was not it. This movie sucked. Without giving away any spoilers, this movie was so boring. I'm not even gonna talk about the actress that plays Tinkerbell because I genuinely don't care. But what I do care about is good CGI, because it was so bad and it was so hard to watch that me and my husband literally thought that the budget for this movie had to be super, super low because the CGI in this movie was so bad. The CGI looked like you were playing a video game. Like, it didn't even look real at all. We can have Avatar: The Way of Water, and we can have this monstrosity of CGI. If you can get past the bad CGI, controversial, but She-Hulk on Disney Plus was better CGI than Peter Pan. Anyway, if you can get past that, the storyline was also crap. So the basic storyline of Peter Pan is he goes, finds Wendy, takes him to Neverland, they fight Captain Hook, they go home. Happily ever after. How do you mess up that simple of a plot? They messed it up so bad. And it's not even, like, the acting was fine. It was flat, but it was fine. The script was meh. It was whatever. Anyway, spoiler free, this movie sucked. I wouldn't watch it. I would give the nerd score a 20%. Yikes. If you do want to watch it, even with all of my warnings of not watching it, and you don't want to be spoiled, I would click off right now. But if you don't care about spoilers, I would keep watching, because I'm going to deep dive into why I hated it, scene for scene, and here we go. Okay, so this movie starts off with John and Michael are running through the house, playing sword fighting, and they say that they are Peter Pan and Hook immediately. So Peter Pan is already a popular fairy tale in this adaptation, and Wendy has to go off to boarding school, and she joins in on the fight, and they're like, you have to grow up, stop being a child, even though she's like maybe 11, but whatever. Anyway, she falls asleep, and then the monstrosity of the CGI Tinkerbell comes in. Again, I do not care who the actress is. The CGI was so bad. It was so bad. I rewound it to the beginning to show my husband how bad it was, because he was like, I don't even want to watch it. But I had to show somebody else how terrible it was, so I wasn't the only one experiencing how bad it is. Anyway, I'm moving on from the CGI. So she comes in, she grabs Wendy, and then Peter flies in. He lost his shadow. They do the normal, like, sewing the shadow back onto the shoe. But they already know he's Peter Pan. He knows everything about them. So they could have set it up. He comes back for them all the time. But instead, he's like this weird stalker person that just knows everything about them. And they just know him from the stories. So it was a little weird. But the only reason why he actually came to save them from growing up is because Wendy said, I don't want to grow up. And he was like, I was waiting for you to say the words. Anyway, they go and they fly, and they did this cool time thing where they go through Big Ben, which their still shots were pretty, but their flying and their CGI was bad. And then they had this weird interstellar moment where she's like looking at herself and there's like a colorful wall. It literally looked like Interstellar when he's in the bookcases. They find themselves in Neverland. The mermaids are weird octopus looking things. and they only show them for like 1 second. That's actually something that happens throughout the entirety of this movie, is they show things for one little nostalgia point, and then that's it, and you don't get to see it, and you don't develop any feelings for any of the characters at all. If you saw my Mario and Luigi, or my Mario Brothers review, I talked about how they didn't establish any of the characters really within the movie, and it was fine because everybody knows who Mario and Luigi are. They didn't do that in this movie, and it flopped. So I feel like you can do it and it can either be successful or it can flop. And with this movie, it flopped because you meet all of these characters, and yes, we know who all of them are. I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, they get to Neverland, and then there's Hook. Hook is played by Jude Law, who's a very good actor, and I didn't care about him at all in this movie, like every other character in this movie. He didn't seem like a Hook. He was like deranged and like psycho, which I understand Hook is psycho. He's attacking a little boy. It fell flat. If you know anything about what good movies are, you show instead of you tell, and this was all just telling. They shoot them out of the sky. You get a couple more glimpses of bad CGI. The pirates kidnap Michael and John, and they take them aboard their ship. And then Wendy meets Tiger Lily, which the biggest controversy with the cartoon was Tiger Lily and her tribe. And I think they actually did a good job of not just erasing that from the narrative like Disney always does, just sweep everything negative under the rug. Instead, they kind of changed it, and it seemed like it was in better taste. And then the Lost Boys are actually Lost Boys and Girls. Again, I don't care about that. That had no effect on me that they were boys and girls. I know a lot of people were like, they're boys, you can't have girls in the Lost Boys, blah, blah, blah. But what does matter is that they didn't show any of the Lost Boys for more than like 5 seconds, so you don't care about the Lost Boys. If the Lost Boys are getting kidnapped, you don't feel like, oh no, they got the so-and-so. Like, you don't care because they didn't do any setup for me to care about these characters. They just showed the Lost Boys because the Lost Boys are a part of Neverland. They go to this Skull Cove, and then you see the ticking crocodile, and the ticking crocodile is this huge crocodile. Massive, massive, massive crocodile. And it's a little scary, but then you look at the CGI and you go, never mind, it's not scary at all. This is worse animation than the cartoon. So you get over it really quickly. But if I was a little kid, I feel like I would be freaked out because it was pretty like big. But you don't hear any ticking. There's like no like ticking in the crocodile at all. And Hook's hook is massive. Hook's hook is huge. And it's like a big like scythe instead of just a hook. They get away from the crocodile, obviously, but the crocodile eats like a bunch of pirates. And then there's weird, I'm jumping around, but there's weird music throughout the whole thing where it's like they wanted it to be a musical, but it is not a musical. Like they just randomly start singing. And I understand musicals randomly start singing, but with musicals, when there's no more talking than you sing and the songs like make sense within the story, they're like, oh, lock them up, and then all of a sudden the pirates just start singing out of nowhere. It doesn't fit, and it just looks odd and awkward. They save Michael and John. Peter Pan is like, Hook and I just always fight, and that's it. And he tells you that that is what they do. So then you believe, okay, that's what they do. And we all know that's what the whole story, they're always at odds with each other. We know that. But instead of telling the audience, you should show the audience that that's what you always do. They go back to their little fort. And they're like, Wendy, tell us a bedtime story, because that's the only reason why you're here. Peter said he was going to go get you because you tell stories. And then she was like, well, I don't know any stories, but I could sing you a lullaby. And then starts singing. Peter like flies away and he's like super bummed. Tinkerbell takes Wendy up to see Peter. And on his door, it says Peter, and then crossed out it says James. And we all know that James is James Hook, Captain Hook. That is a good visual, because now I know James used to live here, but no longer does. Good visual storytelling. Good job, Disney. They go into the room and then it's just talking the rest of the time. Oh, was this James' room? Yeah, this was James's room. James is actually Hook. Hook used to be my best friend. And then they just tell you everything that happens. They could have done a cutscene and gone back in time, showing how great their childhood friendship was, and how they were buddies on Neverland, and then how Hook betrayed him. And you get it through the eyes of Peter Pan, and then when you get it through the eyes of Hook later on, you get the full story. And it's, you see the bias of one side or the other. So many different ways of doing this movie that could have actually been successful. But Disney doesn't care about live action, apparently. So Hook shows up because he heard Wendy singing, and Hook kills Peter Pan, slashes him through the chest, and then he falls all the way down the tower and to the floor. Is presumed to be dead, but we obviously know he's not. Editing me here, I just have to bring this up. When Peter is falling down to his death, that part is shot for shot the exact same scene as Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saving Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I just feel like we need to talk about that because that seems like a big problem. Disney's got some nerve. I'll put a side by side so that you know what I'm talking about. They take all the lost boys that you don't care about back to the ship. Wendy asks Hook when they're in prison, weren't you his friend? And Hook then tells her his side of the story. Again, just telling her his side of the story. So whatever, it's like 10 minutes, but it feels like 2 seconds when it should have been like this whole big thing. They throw Wendy overboard, but then Tinkerbell saves her, and then she starts flying. They start fighting all the pirates. Peter's shadow goes and finds Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily goes and rescues Peter and gives him like medicine. Then he goes and saves the day, and Tiger Lily helps too, which I think that was like a cool way to bring Tiger Lily into it. I will give them that. If you're going to have Tiger Lily, make her a better substantial character. They kick everyone's butt. Tinkerbell makes the ship fly and they like tip it over and stuff, and the pirates fall out of the boat. Then they all fly back to England. And the whole movie, which was like an hour and a half, but it felt like it was 25 minutes long, which was actually a benefit because this movie sucked. Like there was no like substantial scenes that you like got character development and you understood the characters and you cared about the characters, because then when they got home, all the parents, it's just the same thing that we saw in the cartoons or in Hook. If you ever saw that movie with Robin Williams or the first live action Peter Pan, like they all fly home. They all go to the Darling house. The parents are like, who are all these kids? And then Peter flies off back to Neverland. But then this time, he flies back and sees Captain Hook. And they have this admiration towards each other and this newfound love for their new friendship. So dumb. As you can tell, I hated this movie. Nerd score again, 20%. I even want to give it less than that. I want to go like 5%. You know the meme that's like, I wish I could give you a 0, but I can't, so I'm going to give you a 1. If you want to see a good live action Peter Pan, watch Hook with Robin Williams. That was pretty good. Or you can watch the 2003 live action Peter Pan. It's on Amazon Prime. Or just watch the cartoon. Disney needs to really change how they're doing their movies, because this ain't it. Every single live action Disney movie has sucked, with the exception of The Jungle Book was good, Aladdin was mid, and then everything else has been crap. Like Disney. Everybody's gonna go see your movies regardless, but would you want to have everybody see your movies and love your movies? Or would you have everybody want to see your movies and then hate your movies? Because that's what's happening with Marvel. That's what's happening with all these live action. And I understand that I am an adult and these movies are not meant for me. But at the same time, you're remaking movies that I grew up with. So I want to see them because that's like my childhood now as an adult. And you're ruining it. And I also don't think little kids would even like this movie. This movie was like weirdly dark and the twists didn't make any sense. And it wasn't fun. And it was kind of boring. Parts of it dragged and then other parts just made no sense. I don't know what else to say because this is just a colossal disappointment. And I want my hour and a half back. I don't even know how long this movie was. And I know I said earlier we thought the CGI budget or the budget for this movie was super low. It's in the $40 million range. $40 million to make this movie, and zero of those dollars went to the CGI budget. This movie sucked. Go see this movie at your own volition. Leave a comment down below if you want me to review any other movies. They could be bad movies, they could be good movies. I will be here every single week, so please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.